This is the Rolls-Royce Wraith. It's a car you'll want to dress up nice for, and yet you'll only ever drive it with bare feet. It's a car that can leave an Aston Martin for dead, and yet you'll only ever drive it well below the speed limit. It's also a car that's quite hideous to look at. Some might say it represents the very worst of humanity. And yet it's a car that everybody loves. Let me show you why. When you think of Rolls-Royce cars, you instinctively think of big luxury limos. Rich man in the back, chauffeur up front. There's never really been cars designed for you to drive yourself, but the Wraith is different. It's designed for owners to take matters into their own hands, to jump up in the box seat and really enjoy the thrill of the road. There are a lot of reasons why you might want to drive this car yourself. First of all, it's Rolls-Royce's most powerful car ever. It's got a big stonking motor, 6.6 litre twin turbocharged V12. It kicks out 624 brake horsepower and 800 Newton meters of torque. That's way more power than a Ferrari 458 Italia and way more torque than a McLaren 650S. It will do 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, and the only reason it won't do more than 155 miles an hour is partly because it's limited and it's the size of a house. It handles well too. Alright, the brakes can struggle a bit to keep it in check because it's so heavy, and there's a tiny bit of body roll when you're really pushing on. But you can genuinely have fun with this thing, forward, backward, around corners. The reality is though, you won't really want to drive it like a hooligan. I'll be the first person to admit that driving a car like you stole it is a lot of fun, but you can get just as much enjoyment from driving the Rolls-Royce Wraith extremely slowly. The steering is incredibly light. All it takes is the slightest bit of input and the car just responds. Likewise, the throttle response, well, it's not too aggressive. It's not so much that it lurches the minute you press it, but it feels like the engine's connected directly to your foot. It's beautiful. The body glides absolutely effortlessly. It doesn't matter whether there are potholes, speed bumps, peasants in the road. You run over anything in this car, you just won't feel it. It's like driving on a magic carpet. The gearbox seems like it's directly connected to your brain. Not only does the Wraith's transmission feel as if it's one giant cog rather than a bunch of individual ratios, it also intelligently changes gears depending on the situation. The sat-nav knows exactly what type of road you're on and will change up or down depending on how you're supposed to be driving. If you're on a fast road with lots of corners and it knows you'll need to hold a low gear, it will select one for you. If it detects that you're probably going to have to slow down because you're about to enter a 30-mile-an-hour zone, it will choose a higher gear, making for a smoother drive. It's telepathic. Sure, riding around as a passenger in a Rolls-Royce is an incredibly rewarding experience, but I'm telling you, it's got nothing on driving a Wraith for yourself. So it's a hell of a car on the road, but it's also a hell of a car when standing still. Just being in and around the Wraith is incredibly special. It's that good. Earlier on, I mentioned the fact that it's the kind of car you might want to dress up for, but still drive it barefoot. And here's why. Lamb's wool carpets. Not rug, actual carpet. I was driving around earlier, no shoes, no socks, and it just feels incredible. Also, Rolls-Royce, you missed a trick. Get that lamb's wool on the pedals, then we can talk. Up top, you get this incredible LED headlining. The LED lights are designed to mimic the stars above you. And you can actually tell Rolls-Royce what particular constellation you want these arranged in. There's actually a bloke whose job it is in the factory to put these LEDs in one by one. I'm sure he's probably quite well paid for it, but I can't help but think this is a bit of a guilty pleasure. Elsewhere inside, there are pleasures galore. Everything is just perfect. Every switch, every button, every knob has that bespoke luxury feel. So every time you touch anything, You feel as if you're being spoiled. The materials are second to none, with the blend of textures provided by the leather, snakeskin, wood, actually any material you want, Rolls-Royce will install. It all comes together to make what is one of the best cabins money can buy. The slick upper and lower level heating adjustments not only look great, but feel fantastic. The fan speed selector feels like it's lubricated with the finest honey, and the vent opening mechanism is just inspired. There's some pretty serious tech too. Most of it is based on the BMW iDrive system, although that's no bad thing. You get this selector knob that lets you control a central touchscreen. This gives you access to nav, apps, an office client, a telephone system, a concierge service that lets you ring what is essentially a private butler, and there's a damn good entertainment system too. There's a telly so you can watch people from the ghetto embarrass themselves on daytime TV, and the audio is piped via the most fantastic sound system from name. Oh, and the suicide doors can either be closed by hand if you want to slum it, or at the push of a button. And if none of that impresses you, well, you're probably dead inside, but there's one more really cool trick. Integrated Rolls-Royce umbrellas. Very, very clever for when you leave the car and you don't want to get wet. What's interesting is that you can actually put the umbrellas back in even if they're soaking wet. The car has an integrated heating system inside the front bulkhead, so the next time you need the umbrellas, they'll be completely dry. In my job, the most common question people ask me is, you've driven so many cars, what's your favorite? Usually I tell them I don't have a favorite because some cars are better for some purposes than others. A Ford Fiesta is better than a Ferrari in some respects. Likewise, an Aston Martin is better than a Focus in others. But the Wraith has given me food for thought. It's not only a car you can drive every day, but it's a car you'll desperately want to, despite the price, because it makes every journey feel so incredibly special. It does fast incredibly well. It does slow even better. It makes you feel good whether you're inside it or looking at it from 50 feet away. It's magic. I'm reluctant to say it's the best car I've ever driven, but everything else I've stepped into since just feels mediocre by comparison. The Wraith is absolutely, unequivocally amazing.